Hello and welcome to Her Literacies. Today, for the pilot episode of the podcast, we'll be taking a look at girlhood and racial literacies through a digital lens. Each week, I'll be accompanied by guests, and today I'm so honored to have one of my dear friends joining me to talk about girlhood and digital literacies in the classroom. Jasmine Howard is a graduate of the University of Georgia, and she's currently pursuing her master's in social studies from UGA. Right now, she's teaching in the DeKalb County School District of Atlanta, where she teaches eighth grade Georgia studies. Jasmine, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you. Start, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about the context of the classroom you're currently in. What the
Yeah.
school's like, what are the students like?
So I teach in Metro Atlanta in Decatur, which is like basically just right outside of Atlanta. If you know anything about Atlanta, I teach like right on the cusp of 285. So like on the out, I'm like OTP outside the perimeter. Schools comprised mostly of Black African American students, and I also teach co-taught, which basically just means that I see students that are general ed as well as students that are in the special education program, like that have IEPs and stuff like that. So yes, it's eighth grade. It is crazy. They are like in the midst of puberty and figuring themselves out and like where they fit in the world and whether or not they like that. So every day is something new. Also, I think just some of the things that come with teaching in an inner city school are conversations that maybe aren't normally had in suburban schools on a regular basis. So I also think that's like an added layer of pizzazz for every single day.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's such good context just to know where you're coming from as we continue. So, in the context of your different classrooms and all the students you meet with, what do you see as like the definition of literacy in that context?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I want to instill in my students, especially as they are preparing to enter like high school social studies education settings, is comprehension and the understanding of different perspectives. Obviously, my kids, like some of them aren't the best readers, but they can like look at a page and like read the words. But trying to instill in them slowing down, taking the time to consider like what the author meant by that, like why the author might have thought that way, and then also tuning into what they think about that. I think that a lot of times social studies education can become like very passive and just like regurgitating
Uh,
information, but I want my students to like really stop and breathe and kind of chew on our content so that they can gain a deeper understanding and an opinion because I think they deserve to have one.
I love that. And part of why I was so excited to talk to you is because like we are 23 years old, so we were in the middle school classroom not even like what 10 years ago.
Yeah. I
But
think I'm 10 years older than them. Yeah, because my kids are like 12 and 13. So I'm like 11, 10 to 11 years older than them.
what do you think's changed since we were in middle school?
I think that the culture of having phones, like obviously, like whenever we were hitting like eighth grade and ninth grade, like that was whenever Apple was like
Mhm.
the iPhone 5C. Like I'll never forget.
The big
But
phone.
I didn't get an iPhone until I was in high school. So I think that it's the fact that like they all have like smartphones and they all have
Mhm.
Apple Watches and they all have iPads and they're consistently online. I think that we were kind of just figuring it out at that point, but these kids have it down pat. Even like the Chromebook culture, I don't know if that's the same
Oh,
in New York, but like them
wait, tell
figuring
me
out
more.
how to like, so they have Chromebooks that they like you will use in class, and the district will like block YouTube videos
Uh-huh.
and like they'll block the gaming websites. And the way that these kids, one, some of the girls I feel like don't try and circumnavigate it. They'll just be like, guess I'm gonna watch Bluey or like Loud House, like children's shows that are still on YouTube because they have YouTube Kids, or they like hack the system. Like they will hack the Chromebooks to be able to get on whatever website they want to be on. And I remember like when I was in high school, I was trying to figure out how to like get the Wi-Fi password
Yes,
with no Wi-Fi and like having to type in like uppercase, lowercase, lowercase, uppercase password in like my iPod when I was in like seventh grade. Um, so yeah, I think that it's like so crazy to see how different it is.
that's so perfect because my follow-up question was literally going to be, are you feeling the iPad baby effect? That answers
Yes,
that perfectly.
1000%.
Do you feel like all those shifts in like media culture and just like their literal culture behaviorally shifts the way that they like approach education in general?
Honestly, yes and no, because you would think, especially like we're in the age of like generative AI, and I'm like, maybe because they're in middle school, they haven't toyed with it as much. But I think that now, like, I don't think anyone had to teach us how to Google, right? Like, we
Right.
just kind of figured out like if I want to find a piece of information, like this is how I figured it out. And obviously that translated into your educational endeavors. And as you like go through high school and college, you like get on like Google Scholars and Galileo or whatever, and you kind of translate that. But I feel like they'd be like texting Snapchat AI to figure stuff out. And like they don't like if they have a question, they struggle with like putting it in Google to like
Oh,
figure it out. Like, oh my goodness, one of my boys, bless his heart, we're doing a who, what, when, where, why review. They're doing like one pagers, and that was one of their like kind of guided questions. And tell why did he Google who? Like he just like be like just plug it
oh my
in.
God.
So I feel like sometimes because information is so like at their fingertips, when they do have like they struggle with the skills when it's not like okay, yes, you have your notes, but like how are you gonna like explain it for someone to like look at this page that you've made? Like they struggle with like gleaning information in that way, if that makes sense.
That's so interesting. It's interesting to look at how like if they weren't standing within the four walls of a school, and they were presented with something like that, like they'd probably Google it without thinking about it.
Yeah.
But because it's within the context of like formal education, they forget like the skills that probably are innate to them.
1000%. Yeah, they think like
So
I feel like they
interesting.
automatically feel like it has to be harder. But I'm like,
Yes.
no, you know how to do this.
Like, have you run into kids acting like they know something from like TikTok or something like that, but then not sharing that information because they're like, that's not like this isn't the place for that knowledge, even though it could apply?
I feel like a little bit like so early in our class period. So it's Georgia studies, so it's very niche information.
Mhm.
And right now we're in early Georgia history, which is also extremely niche information. But in the beginning of the unit, like the school year, we talked about like like broader historical themes and like how those will operate within the classroom.
Oh, cool.
And I think that a lot of the like, for example, like conflict and like change and stuff, and like obviously they're on the internet. So even if they don't want to like know about the news, like they don't care to know, like they're gonna come across that. And I feel like
Right.
because one, it's something they're not seeking out the knowledge on, it's like kind of coming to them and because they like they know when they don't know a ton about something, like they are self-aware in that way. I'd be like, I know that y'all see the news, like it's impossible, or even like the conflict that comes in America when we are in an election season, like those sorts of things. I feel
Yeah.
like they are a lot of times
Well, shifting to look specifically at girlhood narratives, do you think that the way I know you and I have talked some about just the way that girl culture is really at like this surmounting point in popular culture? Do you feel
yeah,
like the way that those like first of all, do you think that your students feel that too in the way that we do, or like is that an age difference where like they're not as like plugged into people like Beyonce and Taylor Swift as we are? And
yeah,
either way, do you think that that's kind of changed the way that kids are entering the classroom?
yeah, I definitely think that they experience that in a different way. So, like for example, I introduced my kids to Hot to Go and like
Oh wow.
Chaperone, and like I remember coming in on the first day of school and being like, "Am I a song of the summer of 365 by Charlie XCX?" And I'm like, "Who?"
Hmm.
But I do
So
think in
funny.
their own way with people like Glorilla and like
Hmm.
Sexy Red and all these like female rappers, like it
Yeah.
is so pervasive. So like it is existent in that culture as well too. But I even feel like the way that my girls in the classroom hold their power is so much bigger than when I was in
Wait, that's
like
amazing.
yes, middle school. It's like honestly so beautiful. And sometimes they say things that I wish they wouldn't say, like, um, but yeah, no, I feel like the girls at our school really just like there was it. And I feel like one of the things that is so cool is that the boys are like, I don't know if they just don't care or if they're fine with it. But either
Uh-huh.
way, it's not like a conversation. It's not like, why would you? Like it's so normal.
Yeah,
Which I love, love,
that's
love
so
so
cool.
much. Yeah.
That's so encouraging to hear that you've seen like the trickle down effects of that even in your classroom.
Yeah.
Jasmine, you've also told me about how, just with the context that you grew up in and the way your mom raised you and the friends that you've kept throughout your life, you have been told by your students over and over again that you sound so white. Will you talk more about that experience?
Often, but I do think it's beneficial to show them like that being black is not a monolith, like it's not a singular
Yeah.
experience. Like our lived experiences are so different, and that does not take away from my blackness or make me any less black than you are.
Hmm.
And so it's definitely an ongoing conversation. And some of my students that I am like closer with, we really do talk about it, and it is beneficial because they're like, "How do you feel around like all white people?" And I'll tell them, I was like, "Well, honestly, like in my day to day life, like I don't like they're my friends, like they're my close friends." And I'll be like, "But when I go to class, like when I was at UGA, and I would be in like these social studies classes where we're talking about all those social issues, and like then you're the only black student, like that feels a little bit different than just like hanging out with my friends who are my friends." So I think it's also nice to just expose them to that, and also like it's just like a different way of operating. And like not that I would ever want them to experience having to operate in a way where they don't feel like safe or like the best about themselves. Like, and not like that's how I felt in class, but it's like obviously being in class and speaking is a different experience and like being around your friends and speaking. So I try to like kind of relate it to the to that with them being like, okay, well, if I ask you to speak in front of the class, and like not all of your besties are in here, but like if you're at the lunch table with all your besties, like it's just different.
That's so interesting. That's cool that just like by being who you are in the classroom, that you're kind of pushing back on the idea that there's only one way to be black or like
Yeah.
one way to be a black girl or something like that. That's really cool. And I have, it's interesting that it honestly feels like with social media and the pressures that it creates that like any progress that was made in representation and like I think of like early like 2000s TV, like all the different representations of like black families, like young
Hmm.
black kids in all the TV shows. And like now it's like I can't even think of like a main protagonist in a TV show that's black. It's always like the smart sidekick character or
Yeah.
like just like reinforcing that it's like you're either this or that and there's like these options and ways of being. That's so I feel like with social media we've lost that and like just the pressure to fit in and like no, this is the music we listen to. This is what we
Yeah.
do. That's cool that they're noticing there's something different about you.
Yeah. They definitely are.
I'm so inspired by talking to you.
Oh, thanks.
I feel like I'm gonna have so many more questions, but to close it off, actually, I do have one more question.
Mhm.
How the framework of like, or like in our class, we also talk about hip hop literacies and stuff like that. Do you feel like there's practical ways to like bring the frameworks that they're like feeling more native to, like maybe the things that they think of as like this is, or even like them telling you that you talk white, something like that. Do you feel
Yeah.
like there's been practical ways of bringing like the frameworks that they're natively working in, whether that be social media or like just like the way they talk outside of school, anything like that, into the classroom? Is there like a tension between or even like code switching, not just in like use of language, but just how they enter the classroom, or do you feel like it's
Yeah.
pretty consistent?
No, I definitely feel like honestly, when I started day one, like what I think of immediately is like writing, right? And
Oh
like texting, they would like show me their text and I'm like, that's not English. Like that can't be the same language we're speaking. But I feel like for them, there's such a like they were never exposed, I feel like, to informal writing. I was like, y'all don't keep a diary? And they're like, no, like, no, no,
It's
no.
either
And I'm like,
text slang or formal, and there's
yes,
nothing in between.
yes, yes. They feel like there's no in between. So I feel like kind of creating that in between for them and just like note taking culture. We take guided notes and like we're not even a quarter or maybe we are a quarter of the way through the year. But I'm
Wow.
trying to like kind of get them to a place where their notes are not guided because obviously they're going to high school and it'll be a different ball game and like teaching them that like, okay, when you're taking notes, like it might not be the best plan to like write out every single word or like type out every single word. So how can we abbreviate or whatever, create like a
Yeah.
like you know how like stenographers have their own little language, like something like that
Hmm.
where they can use it. And then also just kind of like breaking the barriers of like the fact that like, yes, there is moments where we need to write formally and like there is a formula for that. And like, we are going to get there and you're going to be able to do it like nobody's business by the end of the year, but also creating space, especially in a social studies class where I just value student opinion because I feel like that's the most important part of like, you should like leave feeling away, like whether that's
Yeah.
good or bad, like that's what I believe. So kind of getting them to a place where like they're like sharing their opinion, writing their opinion, processing how they feel about something is so important. So I feel like that is the biggest way. But I also think like this doesn't count. But like one of my girls, Imani, you would love her. I don't know
Oh,
if I should have said her name, but like it's fine the last
it's
name.
okay.
Um, she loves to vlog. Like she just
Oh,
like
wait, I haven't
wants
talked about that. That's such an interesting format
yes,
to
no,
bring to the
they love
classroom.
it. And so like even giving assignments where like for their study guide, they have to like do the study guide and then either make a Quizlet or flashcards or Kahoot or like your own sort of like video diary, whatever. Like you can do whatever it is. If you can present it to me and tell me why it's gonna help you be able to pass this test that we're getting ready to take, like have the best time ever. You know what I mean?
I love that.
So I feel like those are the moments where because it's like I'm not like I am young and hip, but like not the same young and hip that they are. So I feel
Yeah.
like in bringing their culture into the classroom, like they really do have to tell me because it's like I'm not gonna know. There's like 3 TikToks every month that we all of us know. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like you have to tell me because then I won't know otherwise.
Interesting. What is them telling you those things look like so far?
They're just like
Like, are you literally like, show me?
yeah.
I love
Like
that.
yeah,
I've been thinking a lot
but I
about that.
also think like it's like I make them like articulate because that's hard. And also just
Yeah.
like you can make anything beneficial. I think also teaching them that is like, okay, we can do it, but like you have to like I will ask guided questions to be like, okay, so tell me how we can make this assignment that like you're doing, like you want to make a vlog, like why is that
Hmm.
beneficial? Okay, you're gonna sit down and like come up with your pointers. Like, okay, well, everything can't be a pointer. We have to pick the most important like information and things, the highlight reel and stuff like that. So I feel like
Yeah.
going through that kind of helps them realize that like the thought process of like critically thinking it's like creativity, right? Like they have it, they're
Right.
creative beings, but like kind of helping them bring that into the classroom.
Yeah. Like stretch those muscles.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so true too. Because it's like I'm sure they're out there making CapCut videos and
No, they
like
are.
crafting Instagram stories and doing whatever, making playlists. But showing them that that can actually be like classroom actions as well. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lapse there. Oh, interesting. Well, that answered my question perfectly. Justin, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that
Of
we get to continue to
course.
talk about these things the rest of our life.
Yeah. I know, isn't that so fun?
It's beautiful. Well, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, don't
Bye.
actually go. I'm cutting it off there.
Okay.
All right, let me stop recording so I know. My second guest for the day is Nyla Hodnett. She's currently a 15-year-old student at Morgan County High School, which is a public charter school in the rural town of Madison, Georgia. I'm really excited to have a current student perspective on the podcast. So, Nyla, welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. Just to start us off, what are some words you'd use to describe yourself?
Creative, energetic, genuine, and classy.
I love it. Okay. Earlier when we were talking, you told me that sometimes you feel like you have a hard time expressing yourself with words. So what are other ways that you feel like you kind of express yourself? It can be positive or negative.
Like things I do to express myself. Or like, I like to draw and run. Like go to the track and just run.
Mm-hmm. You feel like when you
And
get
that's it.
frustrated, it's hard to express yourself in words when you're like frustrated or confused.
It's helping me express myself anytime, even if I'm like not frustrated.
Yeah.
I just get my words together.
Yeah, I get that. Do you feel like you express yourself differently at home than you do at school? Or like when you're with friends and when you're at school?
Kinda. No. When I'm at school, I don't say anything at school. But like when I'm with my friends, I like I don't know. Like with friends, I'm more like open because I'm
Yeah.
like I be around them a lot.
Is there anything about school that makes you not want to be as open, or is it just at school?
It's just school.
I feel like it's always been that way since you were little.
Yes.
You
But
just
like not like elementary school because like the teachers would like talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
But like so I'm in high school now, it's like I'm just like I'm getting old enough to the point like I just have to like figure it out on my own. So
Really? Okay. So what about then like on your phone? Is the way that you communicate on your phone, like whether that's texting your friends or posting on social media on your story or on the feed or anything like that, is like the language you use there different from how you talk at school?
no, the way I talk on social media is how I talk like at school.
Mm-hmm. When you do talk?
Yes.
So
Like I don't
when we say talk at school, are you thinking of like the lunchroom or are you picturing like someone just asked a question and you're raising your hand to answer it? What are you picturing when we say talk at school?
both. Like if I'm in the classroom and like the teacher's asking like a question, I have to raise my hand to answer the question. I'll probably like use a little more manners because I'm talking to a teacher. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Do you feel like you don't use the same like slang as
Yeah.
your manners? Like it's more polite to not use slang, is what you feel?
Yes. Like profanity, like is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. Or anything like that. Anything that's like more like how people who are young talk, just like on the internet and stuff like that, is what I mean by slang.
Yeah, but I use to balance out because I'm an athlete, so I don't really like use profanity like on social media because it can get back to the school. But
True. So true. Do you feel like school gives you options for how to express yourself? Like not just like out loud, but like in the assignments, like if you don't like expressing yourself in words, do you feel like you're given other ways to express yourself? Or to talk about expression,
oh
like music or drawing or anything like that?
no, not with like I wouldn't say like the assignments, but it's like plenty of like different things to do, like different activities you can do in the school, such like so like basketball, you just play basketball, get on the basketball team. It's like many like different like careers in the school that you can do express yourself.
Do you feel like living in the generation where everyone has a phone makes it different from how it might have been before?
Yes.
Also,
Like before when people didn't have phones, it was like the world probably was just a lot more calm and no conflict. But like everybody has a social media. Like if you don't like somebody, it spreads faster through the internet. So it's like
yeah. Do you feel like it's hard to focus because okay, for those listening, I know Nyla outside of the podcast, and she is a lot of times on the phone with someone for literally how many hours a day do you think you're on the phone with someone?
10,
Like
8.
the fact that those hours are not while you're at school is crazy. I don't know, you have more hours in the day than other people somehow. But do you feel like how your generation tends to do that and like anytime you're not at school where your phone's not allowed to be out? What?
I don't understand the question.
Or like the fact that your generation, when you're not inside of school where they're being like, you can't have your phone out, whenever
Mhm.
you're allowed to have your phone, y'all are like on it and like constantly like immersed in your phones when you're not at school. Do you feel like it makes the way you go into the classroom different?
Yes. So like if I see something like if I'm like gonna walk into class and I'm on my phone, I see something on the internet, it's like I'm be too busy trying to get back to my phone while the teacher's teaching. It's like distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Was your question?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's good. Do you feel like being a girl makes all of this different for you? Like just thinking about ways that you talk in school or things you don't say or things you do, things like that, or and how the phone plays into all of it together. Do you feel like being a girl adds another layer to it or not?
Kind of because like I feel like I can do anything a boy can do, but like since I'm a female, I have to like watch what I say and like watch what I do just because I am a female. I can't do like everything like a boy would like do and get away with.
Good. Do you feel like being a black girl in these spaces changes things? Like what layer do you see race adding to it?
But I don't think like me being colored has like it don't change how anything going to school.
Good.
So like some teachers I feel like are racist in the school, but I feel like they try to like hide it, but it comes out a little bit.
In the English classroom, are you reading books about black girls ever?
No,
Like about that experience, or are you only reading about white characters or Hispanic characters or
I don't think I've ever actually read a book about a black. I haven't.
ever?
No, like
I'm gonna give you some recommendations.
during like the school, like from like 8th grade, because Miss like that's what most like lit classes are. Like you just pick a book, you read it, and you take a test. I don't
It's not crazy to think about then
I've,
that you're in 10th grade, you've never read a book about anyone that wasn't white.
I've never.
Isn't that crazy? It's kind
Yeah,
of it's terrible. Wait, it cut out. What did you say?
I said now that I think about it, it is kind of crazy. I've actually never read a book about a black girl, unless it's like me going to the library and pick up my own book. But like, as a whole class,
Yeah, you've never like talked about it in the classroom.
no.
That's crazy. And that has definite implications about everything else we've been talking about. Because how can they incorporate it in the classroom if they're not even bringing those books and those stories and those perspectives in? What about like in the social studies classroom? Do you feel like the like experience of being black is talked about there ever?
Yes, we talk about like slaves and like politics. We brought up a lot. I feel like it has a lot to do with it, but it's not as bad as it is in like a lit class.
Yeah. Well, that's terrible. And I'm gonna get you a book for your birthday. How about that?
I might read it.
That concludes our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Bye.